for coming. This is actually our first public demo. We came out of YC Fellowship over the last about 4 months, and we just launched in Toronto about 6 months ago. So we're really, really happy to be presenting in our hometown as our first place to present. So thank you so, so much. So I'm one of the co-founders at Sage, and our goal at Sage is to help families age in place. So basically, if you're taking care of an aging parent at home and you need help, maybe your mom or your dad needs help in the shower or with breakfast or any non-medical home care task, you can text us and we'll make sure to send a really certified, great caregiver to their home really, really easily. So basically what we do is half of our job is to carefully screen and interview caregivers, bring them onto our platform, and they use an application to deliver really accurate care when they show up to your loved one's door. And for families, it's as simple as just texting us when they want to reschedule or when they want to know a little bit more about care. And then all they know is, someone really certified shows up and their loved one can get the help that they need. So just for kind of, let's pretend that I am a caregiver taking care of my aging mom at home. And next week on Wednesday, I don't have anyone to cover my mom for lunch. So anyone who comes onto Sage, the first thing that they do is they'll sign up online and they'll fill up a few things about the person that they're taking care of. One of our care managers, a certified nurse, will actually go in and do an initial care assessment. And they'll kind of look at what that person needs help with at home and fill out a short profile. So that profile is all on our system. So once I have that set up, I can just text, and let's say I need something for Wednesday. So let's say, hi Sage, I need someone for next Wednesday. And what that does is we have a chatbot on the back that handles most of the scheduling, kind of mundane tasks that families text us. So that includes any rescheduling, scheduling new visits like this. And so it says, okay, great. Our chatbot is now collecting more information about this visit because I didn't tell it what time. So let's say 2 p.m. for 3 hours. And then once I give the chatbot enough information on the actual visit, it goes off and basically looks at the pool of caregivers and tries to find someone that has the availability that we just set, and then also is a good match for my mom based on the care assessment that we already have on profile. So it says just confirming, great, creating a new visit next Wednesday. And then based on that, Abby is available next Wednesday. So every one of our caregivers, it's really important to us that families know exactly what to expect when someone shows up to their door. Nothing is more jarring than having a new nurse show up to your mom's door, and if your mom is, let's say, 85, that's just not very comfortable for her. So let's just view Abby's profile. Okay, so I can see Abby is a registered practical nurse. She has 3 languages, her certifications, she's worked at North York General, that's great. But most importantly, I probably care most about what Abby is like as a person. So let's watch her video for a bit.
Hi, my name is Abby, and I'm a registered practical nurse and a Sage care provider. I've been providing care for the last 3 years.
So it just goes into a little bit about who Abby is, why she became a nurse in the first place, which I genuinely really care about as a daughter, and I get to kind of see who she is and her personality. And I think Abby is great, so I'm gonna go back and just say she looks awesome. And then now the system knows that they're gonna match next Wednesday appointment with Abby. So I know exactly who's coming, I know her certifications, my trust level has just gone way, way up. If you're going with a normal agency, you get none of this transparency, and that's really important for us. And then also I'm just texting. This is something that I do all the time, right? Okay, so let's do a switch. Let's hope this works. All right, okay. So all you saw there was a simple chatbot. We handle most of these simple scheduling, kind of overhead easy things using our chatbot. But if I texted something really complicated, like I want sugar pies or something like that, a human then takes over and tries to clarify what exactly I mean. But all of our technology is actually focused more so on our nurses and how they go about delivering care. What I care about as a family member is not so much all these cool apps and stuff like that. I care more so that that person coming in to see my mom knows she's allergic to peanuts, right? That's the thing that I care about the most. So all of our caregivers use an Android application when they're in the field. Let me just pull this out. And this is kind of, if I'm Abby, this is my schedule. I see all these visits showing up. And then so I see on Wednesday, my mom, McDermott, let's click into that. I know exactly where it is, how to get in, some allergies, and then also exactly what I'm supposed to do while I'm there. I can check in, and when I check in, it actually sends me as a daughter, any authorized family members, a text message to let them know that, hey, Abby is there, nothing to worry about. And then when I check out as Abby, I can go through the task list and write down any notes about what happened. So if there's anything about, let's say I noticed that you guys are out of adult briefs, or I noticed that you guys are running low on eggs, I can let the family know that without having to leave a Post-it note and wait for, you know, the daughter to come home. And this is where you can let them know exactly what's going on in the household. So a lot of our tech is actually behind the scenes. I think that's what's different between us. And when I was talking to a bunch of family members early on, I think the one tip that we learned out of developing this product was, I'm an engineer and my co-founder is a designer. And so the first thing that we do is start building things. So we spent 3 months last summer basically building out this web dashboard in React. It was really funky. And before we even delivered 1 hour of care, we had spent probably 2 months on dev. That's very typical with a lot of startups. And then when we started serving families, it was really hard to get families off the ground, but when we actually got our first few family members, we went personally to go say hi to all of them, and so they had our phone numbers. And the next thing I noticed is Christmas dinner, I'm getting text messages from families asking me to reschedule visits. I try to redirect them back into the app, and they're just like, well, I don't remember my password. I don't want to remember another login. So that's kind of how we developed that feature of, hey, text messaging is something people want. Stop trying to push them into something that's more technical, even though if it's cooler and could, you know, hold more features in the future, that actually doesn't matter. So that's why we chose to simplify everything the way it is now, and it actually goes a lot, I think, along the theme of what we've seen with a lot of talks today, is just be super, super diligent about what your users are saying, and think a little bit outside the box. Like, we actually spent a good 4 weeks there thinking the text messages are just so annoying, you know, they should be using the app, when that was a huge clue as to what people actually wanted to use. And so, yeah, with that, that's basically what we do. Are there questions?
Over there.
Okay.
Hello.
Hi.
Great presentation.
Thanks.
Are there any privacy roadblocks that you guys hit with texting?
Yeah, so the nice thing is our category of service is still called non-medical home care. So family members don't really text us anything that's medical most of the time. They know this when we talk to them during the care assessment, that only text us things about rescheduling, or if you want us to cook your mom fish, which is actually like the typical kind of requests we get, then feel free to text us. But if you have something more medical related, give us a call. So, I mean, for them, it's super easy. They have that 877 number you talked about. They just call it. So it really feels like, even though if it's kind of supplemented by a chatbot, it feels like I'm working with a person rather than a service. And that was really important to us.
Hi. So I'm just curious, once I've matched with a care provider, and what's to stop me from taking that relationship and conversation off of your software afterwards? Yeah.
Yes, that's a very good question. And so I think that this comes, like, a lot of people will compare us to like Uber for home care and all of this stuff. And we're not, like, because we use an app and drawing conclusions that we're Uber, this whole industry is very different. So you have to think of like who a nurse is. And they went to school for nursing. This is a career to them, and we hire them as employees. So for them to disintermediate or try and backdoor is very, very unlikely. There's just not as many, that's not just as, it's like we provide insurance, like the type of person who's a nurse just doesn't really do that. It's not like home cleaning, for example. Yeah, I don't know if that's, yeah.
Hi, can you filter your care provider, so I don't know maybe if you guys have any males on staff, but my grandmother would never let a man care for her.
Yeah, no, we definitely do. So during that care assessment, the reason why we go and see them in person is because we can capture those kind of preferences. And then we do filter and keep those preferences on file. So when you're automatically matched, all of your preferences, including like, okay, well, you know, my mom has Alzheimer's and dementia. We need to match her with only people who have experience there. We actually automatically match them. So even if you saw Abby, Abby would have already been pre-qualified based on what your mom needed or your, you know, whoever you're taking care of. Yep.
Hi, I really, really love this. I'm an occupational therapist, and this is like a beautiful, beautiful thing to me.
Thanks.
Are you just using nurses for services, or are you making use of PSWs? How are you differentiating that? And as well, if they're asking to, you know, take my mom grocery shopping, that kind of thing, is that being offered as part of it? Are you looking at expanding beyond just personal care?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So actually I say nursing because not that many people know what PSWs are. So personal support workers actually form about 50% of our base of caregivers. Our other 50% are registered practical nurses, but everyone works in non-medical kind of personal care level. So as for driving out to do groceries, we definitely do that. So some of our employees do have commercial licenses on their car, and we've done a car check. So if, for example, during that care assessment, or even when we talk and during the care assessment, we ask you, do you ever need help with, you know, driving your mom to doctor's appointments? And you're like, yes, I definitely do. Then we make sure to match them. Or if you say like, okay, I need to have them at a doctor's appointment, we'll make sure to match them with someone who does. As for nursing, so this is like on to Nikolai's point about trying to find ways to get around medical requirements because it can take a really long time. We're focusing on non-medical. Number one, it's the backbone of home care for seniors. Most of it is personal care, not nursing. Two is we can do a lot more in terms of privacy and just keeping things on our system which are more preferential and less medical. So like, okay, well, does your mom use adult briefs? That's not really like health record information, neither if she's a vegetarian. So we keep that type of information on, and slowly when we become qualified to hold that type of private information, then we'll, you know, elevate up to nursing.
Who do you consider your competitors to be? So I'm thinking about if my mom or my grandma, whoever needs care, their options are a variety of different agencies.
Yes.
There are the CCACs, there's the St. Eliz's, and so on.
Yeah.
And then there are private franchise companies like Nurse Next Door, things like that. So
Home
who
Instead.
do you feel you're competing with?
Yeah, I mean, the market is still mostly those traditional agencies, right? So CCAC, for those who don't know, if you have an aging parent at home and they need help, CCAC is kind of the government body in every community in Ontario that will, you know, help them find government-funded home care services. So we see our biggest competitors honestly being all of those agencies, all of those traditional agencies. There's a few big competitors in the States that are tech-enabled, but I think in general, if you look at the landscape, it is still the traditional agencies that are kind of the behemoth in the room. So we definitely see ourselves competing directly with Home Instead, St. Eliz, all of those traditional agencies. No problem. Yeah.
Thanks for the presentation. Quick question about sort of being able to be discoverable by your customers.
Yes.
So one of the big things that I did a bit of work in this industry, and one of the big things that stood out is when sick elderly people go to the doctor, their kids usually get referrals from the doctor or the hospital on who the PSW should be. So trust is a very sort of critical element to them. They're less likely to trust an app versus their doctor who's giving them a recommendation on something like this. So how do you circumvent that problem? And especially because the brand isn't there yet compared to maybe like an Honor or a Maven Care.
Yeah, that's really good. And those are our two big competitors. In terms of our product decisions, so I'll kind of separate this out into two places. One is like how we designed our product to feel more personal, and then also how we do marketing, because I think there's two parts to it. Number one is the reason why the text messaging makes a lot of sense is because it feels like I'm talking to a person, not like an app. And I think that to Honor and Maven Care's kind of just touching on their product, they have apps. So you manage scheduling through apps, you manage a lot of things through apps. And Apps are very restrictive, like UIs in and of itself are restrictive. Like you're restricted to what that button does, and it doesn't feel like I'm working with the company, right? And I think that's the strength of traditional agencies actually, is that you feel really personal. Like I pick up the phone and I call Jeff, and Jeff is managing my mom's care. The problem with obviously traditional agencies is there's tons of overhead. So the balance there is like, how do we make it seem really personal, but still streamlining operations enough that we could pay our caregivers more, we can still turn a profit, we don't have to charge our customers more, but still have that level of like, I have Sage Care saved in my phone like I do my friend Jeff, right? Or like I do my friend Carrie, and I text them and I call them just like I do those other people. So we really feel like a person that you are talking to. As for distribution, like the doctors and stuff, and how do we gain trust? Number one is, that's always a hard question, and I'll tell you when I solve that. But what we've seen so far is that I think the biggest thing that's missing in this industry is transparency. Like, how many people in here know what a PSW is? You guys might be a little skewed because you guys are like, yeah, right? So I didn't know what a PSW was 2 years ago when I was looking for home care for my grandfather. And this industry as a whole, if you read like all the Nurse Next Door homepages or any like traditional agency page, you won't know anything about how they hire, what qualifications, who's coming to their home. And I think transparency is a big way that we're going to break apart that trust. And we're going to be like, this is exactly how we hire. You know, they have to fill out a personality and a skills test. Here are an example of some of the tests. Here's an example of someone who passes, and here's an example of someone who doesn't. We make sure to do background checks and reference checks, and we've heard stories in the field where traditional agencies, because they just don't have the time, sometimes they don't even talk to the person on the phone before they send it to your house, and that's terrifying, right? So I think in terms of trust and building trust, a lot of it just has to go with telling our story, telling about how we do things, and just being really transparent. I think that's already a refreshing change from what people see in the industry. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Vanessa.
Thanks.